guys, how's it going? Oh god, it has been an interesting 24 hours. Why is that? Well, because someone asked a question on a forum. I gave them my suggestions. Pretty much a lot of it was, to me it was an eye roll, because they asked about sort of playing while and after injury and all sorts of other stuff, and something to do with negotiations and everything. And reading through the actual thread, there was a consensus given the information that was given, which could have been edited in the meantime. It seemed like he was in an abusive relationship. So there was plenty of people that were saying, oh, you're in an abusive relationship, I'd leave, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, too long, I didn't read all of it. Whether you're going to stay together or not up to me, but here's my suggestions. Just communicate and talk with each other, because it appeared that the communication was just not there. The owner came on later on and said, look, here's my side of the story. And I went, oh, okay. I read her side of the story, looked at his side of the story. They're two completely different... Morning, Shirley. They're two completely different points of view. One was his, where it's like it seemed like he was in an abusive, consent-violating relationship. And the other was hers, and it seemed like he was trying to control her top from the bottom, and tell her what to do. Being the dominant, I'm like, okay. And when she wouldn't play the game, she was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to play. That's just it. Later on, he was like, oh, well, I think that she was being intrusive. I'm like, but you wanted a 24/7 dominant person to take over your life. Yeah, she's new, but you're trying to tell me that you've berated her about that? Okay. Right, fine. Then kind of was being abusive to me and saying, oh, your opinion's not warranted, blah, blah, blah. But that's not different from any of the opinions that anyone else has put in that thread. Might have been more blunt. He would have interpreted it as rude. I'm like, I can't help that. You didn't ask the questions. If there's any clarifications, I'm quite open to people talking. But he went on and just sort of yelled at me. But the actual heart of the matter I did answer is that dealing with actually playing with people before, during, or after injury, communication is always a key thing. You need to know where their mind's at, where your mind's at, because your owner will be concerned that they're going to hurt you or exacerbate an injury. So they will say, how's your mind at, what's your brain at, and then they can make the call to say, no, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that, out of concern for your welfare. And also concern for theirs, because a lot of owners I know, despite the fact that they might, do things to you, they don't want to break their toys. They would like to keep you in good order in order to be with you for longer. Now, I don't know how other people kind of see it, but keeping in mind that playing it's important to note. I mean, whether you've been just physically injured or not, there are a lot of mental and emotional things that go on. So you need to ascertain, as like you do before any sort of other play, whether you're fit for play or not. Even if you've planned it for a long time, think of alternatives, offer alternatives. It doesn't have to be physical play, as in, impact play or anything like that. You could just say, okay, well, we'll do a bit of light sensation stuff, and then we'll cuddle. It doesn't have to be, sex stuff like I think that this guy was wanting, but who knows. I said all I could on the matter, and was like, what, I can't help that you interpret whatever I say wrong, so what, that's it, I'll consider the matter closed. But think about that when you are on either side of the slash, how your injuries, your state of mind, their injuries, their state of mind affects what you do and how you play. It doesn't always have to be mean and nasty, or it could be, but just not high energy mean and nasty. There's that low level mean and nasty that you could have in kink play that is very and extremely titillating, that you can draw on for a long time. And it starts with what? The brain up here, It starts with that, you know, little pictures, little flirtations, um, just things like that, you know, just sort of, oh, how would you feel about this and how would you feel about that? Even though you could say, I'm going to do this to you later on, you may not do it. That's a part of sort of the dynamic sort of tease and stuff like that, which you can get at a more involved level, like with regular players, with people being in a dynamic for a long time. They kind of know each other's little quirks and what turns them on and gets them going. It's just a wonderful thing. So, as always, I know people get tired of harping on about communication, but it is important because you don't want to, one, feel that disappointment churning inside you on either side of the slash, that, you know, you've gone too far, that you couldn't do what you wanted, and, you know, just be aware and also learn how to trust and accept what people say as writ, because you can't read minds, you can't know people's emotions, and people that say, oh well, but I meant this, say, well, you got to learn how to express a bit more, a bit better. Don't immediately assume that everybody knows what you're talking about. Okay, I don't. So I get people yell at me and get misinformed and all sorts of other stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, ask me questions for clarifications. On a point though, that was interesting was that you seemed quite respectful to those that I believe were all just mistresses, and I don't denote that on my actual profile, so who knows, maybe because I wasn't his type. Heaven knows. Oh, it's noisy this morning, but beautiful. Also, the egg is coming up, so I'm going to be going with a friend. I haven't been in ages. I'm going to look at looks of awesome food. Oh my god, just a second, I've got to show you this lichen here. This is awesome. Look at that. See, the lichen is on one side, lichen which is like a symbiote of, I think it's like moss and some other living thing. And look at that bit that's growing out there. See that? And just on this other side, there's nothing. It's funny the way life is. And I've got some egg cartons for a friend of mine who has chickens. Anyway, so playing while you are injured or sick or ill or whatever, it doesn't have to be big, massive thing. It doesn't have to be the dom or owner doing everything. There's a couple I know where the sub assists in their own demise. Oh my god. Who would have thought? And people are like, oh my god, you can't do that, they've got to do all the work. And I'm like, well, no. Physical injuries, I understand. It's like, and so why, what's wrong with them, like, putting their arm out and helping, and here, let me help you with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And no, it doesn't have to break the flow of play. It doesn't. It might take some getting used to, but let me put it this way. It's taken some getting used to for you to actually get into, you know, kink and BDSM. Some things you found were unusual, you go, okay, well, then your kink is not my kink. But, you know, I'm okay with that. So, I don't understand. But then that's a cat brain. Look at that sun. Anyways, think about that. Have you played or were going to play while or before, during and after you were injured? Well, not before, you can't do that. But during and after your injuries, what sort of concessions did you have to make? What sort of changes did you have to make with negotiations and all that? You had to touch base more. How was your communication skills on that? Were there things that you could improve or not improve? So, think about those things. And yes, I know how boring communication, oh my god. But having everybody on the same page is essential, particularly if you don't want to have a lot of misinterpretations and make a mistake in a place and in activities where it could be and or exacerbate injuries, like cause injuries and or exacerbate current injuries. Yeah, you want to keep playing for as long as you want. And I know some people who would love to do that. Anyways, love you guys. See you, Shirley. Have a good morning.